We have another hot topic involving gun rights. This one is emanating out of New York City. Yeah, I know. How can gun rights and New York City be mentioned in the same breath? What I find notable about this case is how important it is to ask good questions when listening to some YouTube propaganda artist slobber out talking points. As some of you have guessed, I love to start off the story with the misinformation, because I think it helps highlight the mistakes we make in reasoning when we hear a story, fall for it, then get to uncover the truth. And whenever you need a story filled with misinformation, there's no better source than Indisputable on the Young Turks. Rashad Ritchie is still in Egypt, lecturing on quantum physics. Okay, now wait a minute now, Johnny, stop laughing. This is serious. And how his ancestors, the Egyptians, stop it, Johnny. It's not funny. Very serious. Take it seriously, damn it. This is your first YouTube video that's going to be monetized, and here you are goofing around. Okay, being serious. Discovered it thousands of years ago. The hell with it. Who am I kidding? It's hilarious. That's right. Rashad Ritchie is giving lectures on quantum mechanics in Egypt because he thinks he's a direct descendant of the Egyptians, and he thinks that they discovered quantum mechanics 2,000 years ago.
Hi, I'm the most local person in here.
But at any rate, Sharon Reed is stepping in for him. And yeah, she's really, really bad. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Okay, I'm going to make an extra effort here to approach this as objectively as possible. Even though I have done a lot of background investigation, I'm going to play this video here working under the assumption that I have yet to do so. Okay, so here we go.
Black veteran arrested for possession of a legally owned gun. It's legal.
Well, you can be in legal possession of a gun and still be charged, depending on how you're defining legal possession. For example, I may have a valid CCW, but if I walk into a bank, I can be arrested. So right away, I have a question. What does she mean by legal possession? And what were they really arrested for? We'll see.
New York, Rafiq Khan, highly decorated Black U.S. Army veteran with a concealed weapons permit, was pulled over for unspecified reasons by the NYPD.
Well, he was pulled over for some reason. We don't know what it is. Now, is it because they don't want to tell us the reason? Don't know. But that's another question I'm going to ask myself. What was the real reason? Well, a probable cause statement would tell me.
It's always the unspecified reasons. And arrested for possession of his own gun, spending more than 24 hours in jail before he was informed of the charges against him. Interesting. Khan's arrest took place Sunday, November 26, 2023, after attending a small family gathering to commemorate the birthday of his mother, who had recently passed away.
Don't care.
At some point after midnight, Khan, his cousin, and a friend stepped out of the home and into his 2022 BMW Series 3. Nice car.
Okay, so she's mentioning nice car. Is that important? Well, maybe it could explain why he was pulled over, so I'll give her a break on this. The fact that it's a very nice car could play a role.
Which had Purple Heart license plates on the front and back of the car. To converse and catch up since they had not seen each other in a while. At around 3:15 a.m., the men noticed an unmarked police car drive by slowly before driving away.
Okay, so he has Purple Heart license plates on the front and back. Is that important? I wouldn't think so, but okay. And it's at 3 o'clock in the morning. Is that important? Well, maybe.
Men sat in the car for a while longer, conversing before Khan drove off with them toward his home in St. Albans, Queens. And a Black Star filling in the details.
Okay, I already have a problem. It's the Atlanta Black Star. If there is one outlet that you cannot trust to tell you the truth, it's the Atlanta Black Star. It's a propaganda outlet. And Rashad Ritchie uses it a lot. He's from Atlanta, and their politics jives very tightly with his own. It has an extreme bias in its reporting. So right away, I have problems.
He was eventually pulled over by the same unmarked police car they had spotted earlier. The cops who pulled him over were not in uniform, nor did they identify themselves. I mean, that could have been a carjacking. I would have thought, am I being jacked?
But that raises a question to me. If I'm a cop and I'm not in uniform, and I pull somebody over at 3 o'clock in the morning, why would I not identify myself as a cop? That makes no sense. This is a potentially dangerous situation. And I'm not going to tell the man I'm pulling over that I'm a police officer? So my question is it really true that they did not identify themselves? You have to ask yourself that question. Just because the Atlanta Black Star says so doesn't make it so.
You're not identifying yourself. Unmarked vehicle, not in uniform. I said, take whatever you want. Just don't kill me. That's according to the lawsuit, but the main cop doing the talking was later identified as Besson. Soon as he saw the lights behind him, Khan removed the gun from his holster, placed it in a glove compartment, then placed his hands on the steering wheel.
All right, so one of the questions I immediately thought of was, he's taking his gun from his holster where he's legally allowed to have it, and he's placing it in the glove compartment. Now he's transporting the gun. New York might have some interesting laws about that. Could he maybe have been arrested for illegal transport? Was the gun loaded? Well, New York probably has some laws about transporting loaded firearms in the cabin of a vehicle. So a question I have for myself right away is, what was he really arrested for? Was it for illegal possession or for illegal transport? Remember, it's New York, and they freak out over guns.
Sounds like a black man in America.
Wait, where did that come from? So she inserts the race card immediately. And the problem with that is that it's now going to color everything that you're going to read in here from this point on. Those who have bought into the BLM myth that the police are more likely to shoot a black man when they pull them over are now going to be interpreting everything in that context. And this is how propaganda works. There's no need for the race card at this point. We don't know enough.
We're taught to do. But Besson ordered the men out of the car and began searching it without consent or probable cause, the lawsuit states.
Okay, so the next question I have is, did they search the car or did they only go into the glove box? Keep in mind that if he told them that he had a gun in the glove compartment, he's given them probable cause to go search that glove compartment. Has he given them probable cause to search the entire car? I don't think so. So now my question is, did they search the car or just the glove compartment? You see, you gotta ask these questions.
The cops searched the car for 30 minutes before handcuffing the men and transporting them to jail.
Okay, now she says the cops searched the car for 30 minutes. Obviously, they didn't search just the glove compartment. They searched the entire car. Did he give them permission to do so? I don't know. The lawsuit is claiming he didn't. What are the police going to say?
What did they do? Even though the concealed weapons permit had been issued to him by the New York City Police Department, which could have been quickly confirmed in its database, it still took prosecutors another 3 months before dismissing the charges against the 40-year-old veteran. Because that's how we're living. Take my time. Took me a split second to arrest you, but I'm going to take my time. Could have found out immediately. He's allowed to have this weapon.
Yeah, the wheels of justice turn really slowly. I'm sure you're not the first one to discover that, Sharon. You think that black men are the only ones that have this trouble?
Decorated 40-year-old veteran. But even after the charges were dismissed, the NYPD still refused to return his firearm on the basis that the case was still under investigation. Now, this is the dirty part. And it's not even a mistake. You didn't make a mistake. You profiled these men who were just celebrating Mom's birthday. She recently passed away.
She claims, you profiled these men. You have no evidence of that yet. But that's how indisputable works. They just make the claim out of thin air. We don't have enough information yet to make that claim. But the fact that he's having a hard time getting his weapon back, gee, I wonder if that ever happens to anybody else but black people. This is New York. They hate guns. They're scared of guns. They have massive hoplophobia. It's a miracle that he's going to get his gun back at all, if he does. And it doesn't matter if he's black or not. That's the way they do in New York.
Now, Rafiq Khan is suing the NYPD for racial profiling, malicious prosecution, false arrest, and imprisonment, conspiracy, and violating his Second Amendment right to bear arms, according to the lawsuit obtained by Atlanta Black Star.
It's amazing how pro-Second Amendment they get when it's a black person being arrested. You ever notice that?
Khan, in fact, is employed as an armed federal environment protection specialist for the Department of Interior, assigned to Fort Wadsworth.
Yeah, he works for the National Park Service. Big deal.
Former military base on Staten Island that the National Park Service is now using.
Specialist. Now using. Man, Sharon, knock it off. You're not Rashad Ritchie. You should be thanking your lucky stars for that. But you're trying to emulate his vocal inflections, and it's irritating as hell.
Prior to accepting the job, he had applied for the NYPD and had even passed the entrance exam. NYPD would have been better off for it. Sounds like he would have been an excellent candidate. Meanwhile, the main cop who arrested him, Matthew S. Besson, has had 36 complaints filed against him over the past 5 years since joining the NYPD, mostly from black people who have accused him of excessive force, improper use of body camera, failure to identify himself, and discourtesy.
Okay, so it says 36 complaints, mostly from black people. I would like to know where they got that information.
You know what? I changed my mind. This decorated 40-year-old black man, this veteran, would not have been a good candidate for the NYPD. I don't think he would have fit in very well.
I have no idea what your point was at all, Sharon.
Only 8 of those complaints have been substantiated. That doesn't mean that he didn't do more. And by now we know that. I'm just clarifying.
So unsubstantiated claims count in her book, okay? Who didn't know that already?
Only 8 substantiated. Significant. That's significant, considering how many complaints against police are determined by internal affairs to be unsubstantiated. Usually they said nothing happened. You didn't see what you saw, and we don't know anything about the bruises on you. Besson is also listed as a defendant in 2 prior lawsuits that remain pending. If that officer was in the military, he would have already been discharged for dishonorable conduct, Khan said.
Okay, the question I have is Khan in a position to make that claim? Yeah, he's a veteran, but I'm not certain he's an expert in that area. Furthermore, I don't think it's relevant. The military is not the police. They have different roles and different challenges. I don't think that you can apply military standards onto the local police.
But do you see the veteran Khan, Rafiq Khan? They're not playing by what would be your rules. In the civilian world, and we know really aspects of the military, but let's stick with the civilian world woes. This is what you do. I think what happened was criminal. I'm all for the lawsuit, which once again, isn't New York taxed enough? If you live in New York, raise your hand if you're taxed enough.
Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. Possibly the party that's in power. You gonna blame that on gun owners?
Now you're gonna have to pay another lawsuit because this is what it is. And every bit of what he's alleged, if this went down like this, it happened. And we know he has a leg up in his right woes because they dropped the charges, but they won't give him back his gun.
That's really common. Furthermore, we don't have any evidence that they're not going to give it back to him. They just haven't done it yet. The wheels of justice turn slowly. My guess is he'll probably get his gun back at some point. But I find it amusing that she's complaining about taxes going up because of an unlawful arrest of legal gun possession. She's sounding like the NRA. Now, if Khan was white, she would flip 180 degrees. She would take on the anti-gun stance. He's driving around with this gun at his holster and he puts it in the glove compartment. He's a danger to everyone. Thank God we have the police rounding them up. And he'll probably get off on some technicality.
I think he should add theft. Add theft to the lawsuit. But I think this officer should be, yes, fired, of course, but I think charged.
For theft? Oh, come on. There's a lot of people out there saying that she has a law degree. I don't know where they get that information because she does not have a law degree. And it's pretty clear that she doesn't know anything about the legal definition of theft.
What are you conspiring? What are you doing here? Your turn.
Conspiring with who? I don't see any conspiracy here, but okay. Before making any further commentary, I want to clear up a claim I made earlier. I stated that by telling the police that he had a gun in his glove compartment, Khan gave the police probable cause to search the glove compartment. That's inaccurate. What it did was give permission to the police to retrieve the gun out of concerns for, you guessed it, officer safety. If they indeed searched the vehicle based just on being informed there was a gun in the car, I think that would be a violation of Khan's Fourth Amendment rights. This seems to be a gray area in policing. I did an online search to find the answer to this, and the opinions were kind of all over the place. So here is what we are led to believe. The officer sees 3 black men in a very nice car at 3 a.m. He figures that they, being black and in a nice car, must be up to no good, so he follows them and initiates a traffic stop for no reason at all other than to pin something on them. The driver informs them that he has a gun in his glove compartment and that he has a valid CCW. The officer jumps on that claim to search the entire car. He just wants to arrest all of them for something. The cop doesn't care that the man has a valid CCW, so he arrests him for illegal possession anyway. Now, that's what we have been led to believe by Sharon Reed and the Atlanta Black Star. But is that really what happened? In my next video, I will read the lawsuit, which is always going to be heavily skewed toward the plaintiff's take on things. Even so, we will learn a lot about what happened that night, enough to fill in many of the missing pieces that neither Sharon Reed nor the Atlanta Black Star bothered to find. Using reasonable logic, I think I know what happened, which in most respects is less nefarious than Sharon would lead you to believe, but doesn't totally let the cop off the hook. In the end, I think Khan's lawsuit has some merit. But the story could have been told without the usual clickbait muckraking so typical of the Young Turks' indisputable show. We really don't need all this race grifting. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for part 2.